I have here a button, a pair of scissors, a spool of thread, fabric, and a sewing needle. No, I didn't raid my grandma's sewing box. Okay, maybe I did, but that's besides the point. This is all you need to learn a really practical and useful skill. I'm talking about learning to sew on a button. This is something my grandma taught me when I was 10 years old, and I have done countless times since. In fact, just last month, I fixed a button on my comforter case, and it was super, super cool to be able to do something simple, but also something that was taking care of myself all on my own. So today, I'll take you through the steps, from threading your needle to adding extra thread to add support to your button so that it doesn't come off again. The first step is to take about 1.5 feet of thread. I kind of just eyeball it, and my rule of thumb for thread is whatever I have lying around. If I have to buy thread, whatever's cheapest. I then will take my thread through the hole in my needle, also known as the eye of the needle, and pull it through. And then I'll have both sides of my thread, and I want to pull it through until both sides are the same length. I then will tie both ends together 2 or 3 times. This makes sure that we don't lose our thread when we are sewing. Alright, we're ready to start. Next, I will take my fabric and figure out where I want my button to be. And I'm going to mark that spot with an X. I'm going to do this by taking my needle through the back of my fabric into the front and pull tight. And then diagonal from that spot, I'm going to put my needle through and pull tight. And then just to the side of that first stitch, I'm going to put my needle through, pull tight, and then I will go over that first stitch, creating an X. That X will mark the spot for our button. I'm going to center the button on the X. Next, I'm going to go through the back of the fabric, through the fabric, and through one of the holes on the button. And pull tight. I next will go completely diagonal from that first hole that I put my thread through. Put my needle through the buttonhole, through the thread, and pull tight. I then will move one hole over from where I started. Put my needle through the fabric and all the way through that buttonhole. And then I will go diagonal once again. And then, once again, returning to my original hole and moving one over. Pull tight, diagonal. Back to where I started and one over. Pull through, diagonal, pull tight. Great, so now you should have an X. Next, I am going to put my needle through the fabric, but not go through the button. So just kind of next to. And then I'm going to wrap my thread about 7 times around. This tutorial is all about guesstimating, if you haven't already noticed. Great. Next, I'm going to put my needle through the fabric, but again, not through the button, and pull tight. And then flip my project over, and I tie 2 knots. really any knot, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm just going to do it down here so I don't stab myself, at least for that first one. Second one I can show you a little better, because things are not so slippery. And pull tight. Next, I just trim the excess with a simple snip, snip. And now I have my completed button. And it's nice and secure and won't come off anytime soon. So that is how, from threading our needle to making our X, to going through the buttonholes, to adding excess support by wrapping, going back through and tying it off with a nice tight knot or two, we were able to sew on a button. So next time a button pops off, you don't have to go running to Grandma, except maybe for some supplies, and you will be able to fix it yourself.